the day my father was lowered into the grave. My brother stole my entire life. Not money, not property, not even just inheritance. He stole my name, my future, and my identity. And he did it while everyone was too busy wiping tears. I didn't cry that day. I smiled, because I already knew. I wouldn't take back what he stole. I would take what he still had left, his future. My name is Ryan Carter. I grew up believing blood was everything. That family was unbreakable. My father, Robert Carter, built everything from nothing. A construction empire that started with one truck and a dream. And then there was my brother, Ethan Carter, older, smarter on paper, always wearing suits, always talking business, while I was the emotional one, the loyal one, the son who stayed close to home. Father trusted both of us, but in different ways. He trusted Ethan with numbers. He trusted me with his heart. For years, I worked beside him, managed workers, negotiated contracts, solved problems at 3 a.m. Ethan stayed distant, boardrooms, investors, lawyers. Our father always said, "Ryan, you understand people. Ethan understands power. Together, you'll be unstoppable." I believed him. That was my biggest mistake. The funeral was packed. Politicians, business partners, media, everyone wanted to be seen mourning Robert Carter. I stood beside my brother in black clothes. He looked calm, too calm. Not a tear, not a shake in his voice, while my hands were trembling in my pockets. When the coffin was lowered, I felt something inside me die properly. That night, after the burial, Ethan called a family meeting. Lawyers were present, documents on the table, and that's when my future was murdered on paper. The lawyer cleared his throat and said, "As per Mr. Robert Carter's final will, full ownership of Carter Constructions is transferred to the elder son, Ethan Carter." My head snapped toward my brother. He didn't look surprised. He looked prepared. Then came the second knife. Ryan Carter will receive a one-time settlement of $50,000. That company was worth over $40 million, and I was worth $50,000. My uncle shouted, my aunt cried, my mother collapsed. I stood there frozen. I whispered, "Father would never do this." Ethan finally looked at me and said softly, "Business isn't emotional, Ryan." That night I couldn't sleep. Something didn't feel right. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was our old family lawyer, Mr. Hendricks, a man who had known my father for 20 years. He sent me a message. "Your brother changed the will." My heart stopped. The next morning, we met in secret. He showed me copies of the original will. And I saw the truth. The company was supposed to be split 50-50, but 2 weeks before my father's death, while he was sick, weak, on medication, Ethan replaced the document. Forgery, pressure, manipulation, legal crime hidden behind legal ink. I felt sick, not because of the money, but because my own brother had robbed our father while he was dying. Within days, my life collapsed. Ethan fired me from the company. Security walked me out like a criminal. He froze my access to every asset. Even my house, which was under the company name, was taken. He left me with nothing but my car and that fake $50,000. He told me, "Disappear quietly, or I'll make sure you do." Friends stopped answering. Relatives avoided me. Business partners blocked me. I became a disgraced brother, the failed son. At night, sitting in my car, I whispered to myself, I lost everything in one funeral. But that's when something dangerous entered my heart. Not anger, not sadness. Clarity Ethan thought I was broken. What he didn't know was that for 5 years I had handled the dirtiest deals of the company. Bribes, illegal suppliers, fake contracts, offshore accounts. I whispered to myself, "Let's see how clean your empire really is, brother." I moved to another city under a fake identity. I worked silently at a small finance firm. Learned corporate law, asset recovery, forensic accounting, digital money tracing. For 2 long years, I lived like a ghost. No parties, no social media, no friends, only one goal: collect enough evidence to erase Ethan Carter from the future. Year 3. Ethan's company was at its peak. Media called him the youngest construction tycoon in the state. That's when I made my first move. I anonymously tipped the tax department, provided proof of fake invoices, shadow employees, encrypted offshore wallets. They didn't raid immediately. They watched. And so, I did. 6 months later, Ethan won the biggest government contract of his life, $800 million project. On the same morning, tax officers knocked on his door. He thought he had already won at the funeral. But the grave he dug for me was about to become his courtroom. Ethan didn't call me when the tax officers arrived. He called me after. 3 missed calls. Then one message: "Whatever you're doing, stop." I smiled for the first time in 3 years. His headquarters were sealed for 48 hours. Accounts are frozen. Media waiting outside with cameras. Employees panicking. But that was only phase 1. Because I wasn't after his money. I was after his name. Ethan had built his empire on fear and shortcuts, so I attacked what he trusted most: his investors. Under different identities, I approached 3 of his biggest partners. I showed them fake land ownership documents, crooked safety approvals, hidden liabilities, upcoming government blacklist. One by one, they pulled out silently. No noise. No public drama, just empty rooms and canceled meetings. Ethan's stock value dropped 39% in 72 hours. He still didn't know it was me. There was one man Ethan had destroyed years ago: Jacob Miles, a loyal site supervisor who lost his job and his leg due to a construction accident. The company paid him nothing. I found him working as a night watchman. When I told him I could destroy Ethan, he cried. When I showed him the evidence, he became fearless. Jacob became my witness, and witnesses are more dangerous than weapons. One anonymous legal filing, that's all it took. Negligence, bribery, unsafe, labor, illegal foreign payments. Ethan was officially under investigation. His face appeared on the news for the first time. Not as a hero, but as a suspect. I watched it alone in a cheap apartment and whispered, "This is still just the foundation." Ethan decided to prove his innocence with a press conference. Big stage, bright lights, confidence on his face. He said, "These are false accusations from jealous people." Then a journalist stood up. She said, "What about the offshore account in your wife's name?" The crowd froze. Another asked, "And the safety report you personally altered?" Then Jacob stood up from the audience and raised his artificial leg. Silence crushed the room. He said, "Your company took my real one." Ethan's face went pale. Big stage, bright lights, confidence on his face. He said, "These are false. His wife took the kids and left. His investors sued him. His friends deleted him. His board voted him out. And the man who once threw me onto the streets, now he stood alone at the edge of his crushed empire. Still, he didn't know I was behind it all. And that was the most beautiful part. At 2:13 a.m., Ethan received an email. Subject, "From your brother." Inside was only one sentence. "You buried me at our father's funeral. Now I'm standing at yours." He dropped his phone. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt fear. Real fear. I returned to my hometown after 3 years. I went to my father's grave, and that's where the final truth waited for me. The old caretaker gave me a sealed envelope. He said, "Your father told me, give this to Ryan only if his elder son ever betrays him." My hands shook. Inside was a handwritten letter, a flash drive, and a second will my father had known. He had known Ethan would try to steal. He had planned this, with me in mind. The second will said, Ethan would inherit everything publicly. Ryan would inherit everything secretly, hidden power, hidden control, hidden evidence. The flash drive contained every illegal deal, every bribe, every fake account. My father had collected it as insurance, not against enemies, against his own son. And now that insurance had matured, I scheduled a meeting, private, legal, live-streamed. Location, the same hall where my father's funeral took place. The invitation went to media, police, board members, investors, and Ethan. The title of the event, The Truth. Robert Carter, buried alive. The hall was the same walls, same stage, same seats where people had cried for my father. Only this time, they weren't here to mourn the dead. They were here to watch the fall living. Cameras lined every wall. Police stood at the back. Board members whispered nervously. Media trucks crowded outside. And then, Ethan arrived. No suit, no confidence, no smile. He looked smaller than I remembered, older, weaker. For 3 years I had imagined this moment. And now, he was finally standing in front of the ghost he tried to erase. Me. I walked onto the stage slowly. Murmurs ripped through the hall. Isn't that the younger brother? Didn't he disappear after the funeral? Why is he here? Ethan stared at me like he was seeing a dead man breathe. I took the mic. My voice was calm. 3 years ago, at my father's funeral, my brother buried me while the coffin was still open. Silence took over the room. Today, I return the favor. I turned to the screen behind me and pressed play. One by one, his secrets came alive. Bank transfers to offshore accounts, bribery payments, fake employee records, edited safety reports, signed altered contracts. The forged will. Each file hit the screen like a hammer. Gasps filled the hall. Board members dropped their heads. Journalists stopped typing. Ethan stepped forward. This is fake. All of this is fake. Then I looked at him and said, You taught me something, brother. That lies need paper, but truth only needs time. I held up the sealed letter. My father's handwriting. I read it out loud. If you are hearing this, then my elder son has proven me right, and my younger son has proven me wrong. I paused. The room was frozen. Ethan was born with hunger. Ryan was born with loyalty. One will rule with fear, the other with patience. My hands trembled. Ryan, if you are reading this, then your brother has stolen from the dead, and now the dead give you permission to take from the living. I looked straight at Ethan. This was never my revenge. This was our father's justice. The lead officer stepped forward. Ethan Carter, you are under arrest for fraud, financial crimes, identity manipulation, and corporate negligence causing death. The metal clicked around his wrists. For the first time in his life, power left his hands. As they pulled him away, he screamed, Ryan, I protected you. I made you weak so the world wouldn't eat you alive. I replied calmly. You didn't make me weak. You made me patient. As they dragged Ethan out, my mother stood up. She had not spoken a word by entire night. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She only said one sentence. I lost one son to greed and the other to silence. That sentence hurt more than any betrayal. That night I returned alone to my father's grave. No cameras, no police, no crowd, just me and the man who raised two sons, and lost them both in different ways. I placed my hand on the stone and whispered, "Your empire is clean now." No wind answered. No sign came. Only silence. And for the first time in years, that silence felt earned. Ethan was sentenced to 17 years. The company was dismantled. Funds were returned to workers. Families received compensation. The Carter Empire, which once built on shortcuts, became a public lesson. I refused to take ownership. I sold everything, donated most of it, because I had already learned something dangerous. Power doesn't corrupt first. It tempts me first. 2 months later, I received a final letter from prison, from Ethan. It said only one line: "You won, but you became me to do it." I never replied, because he was wrong. I didn't become him. I became what he tried to destroy. Someone who can lose everything and still choose not to steal. Not with bullets, not with fists, but with time and truths and silence.